All right, good evening. So, welcome to my case conference and reflection for assignment three. I'm Matthew Sabio. Anyway, let's get into it. So, my client review. So, my client is female, age 21, a height of 158 centimeters, weight of 60 kilos, the BMI of 24, so complete normal range. Her occupation is a university student. Moreover, she is a competitive Australian tennis player, so she's played tennis for various years, gone to state and national comps. She doesn't have any existing conditions such as diabetes or asthma. However, she does have a mild case of shin splints, and moreover, she has had a major surgery on her pelvic area, specifically a hernia, which she had earlier this year in January. Um, so for goals, my client had a few goals here, but the main emphasis really was to return to tennis and qualify for nationals. So we broke it down using the SMART goal framework. Pretty much, uh, we narrowed it down to two short and long-term goals. So a short-term goal was to return to competitive tennis, just like consistent training by probably late end of the year. And her long-term goal, probably 2, 3 Ds down the line, was to eventually qualify for nationals. So in saying this, with the Visor program, we're going to focus on this block on explosive power and muscular strength. Um, some constraints we had to take into consideration. So one was obviously the hernia that occurred, but also we had to restrict pretty much to upper body exercises because of that. It didn't help that she was getting slight knee pain as well, and she has shin splints, so it was made the best decision to just stick to upper body for this block. And we avoided any sort of Olympic lifts or barbell work just because she has sort of developed a bit of a phobia to those types of movements due to that being the cause of her injury. So interventions. So I devised down into a testing week before we started our program. So we narrowed it down to four areas that we needed in relation to my client's goals as a tennis player. So we focused on cardiovascular, explosive power, core endurance, and flexibility, all very important and crucial for tennis. So our first one was a Bruce Walker V2 submax test. We opted for this over a cycle ergometer, just it'd be less taxing on the lower body. It'd be more comfortable for her, and we had no incline for that. So just flat. For our explosive power, we had just had med ball throws, and then we moved on to planks for core endurance and a sit and reach test. We have the results in just a sec after this program. So for after the testing, we had an exercise program. So this was our exercise program for um, my client. So we started off with some med ball throws, 3x8, just really focusing on speed and acceleration to really building that power up. And then we moved on to pay lift press. That was just more on trunk rotation. Um, RP isn't as high, but that's just because it's more of a stability exercise. It's really effective for core strength and injury prevention, according to the meta-analysis. For upper body strength, I just went for a seated overhead press. High reps just to build that muscular endurance and muscular hypertrophy, muscular size and endurance, sorry. Um, and that tempo was nice and controlled 2020 and RP of 7. And then we move on to banded external rotations, higher reps, and this was just more of a rehab thing. Banded external rotations are good for your shoulder joint health. It's shown to be good, good for all levels of training, particularly high level, and it's shown to reduce shoulder pain and impingements over time. Uh, and lastly, we had Russian twists. Nice and simple, yeah, very effective in building the core. 6 out of 10 RP. So for progression, so I wanted to try to keep the RP consistent, just so we're getting that stimulus. However, once my client started to find it a bit easier during the coming weeks, I decided to increase the weight just to keep the RP the same. So for med ball throws, we started off with 2 kilos, and then we slowly moved up to 3. And then pay lift press, we started with 5, and then we moved up to 6, and then to 7.5. For seated overhead press, seated similar concept. First 2 weeks was 5, and then third week she progressed to 7.5. However, she just stayed at 7.5. For external rotations, we did red bands, that's the lightest, and then we progressed to green. So as you can see here, it's not linear for, and sorry, Russian twists as well, 2.5, 3. But as you can see, it's not linear. Just because some weeks, my client felt a bit sick. She felt stronger in some areas, weak in some areas. So, some areas improved quicker, some areas stagnated, some areas, um, didn't improve as much compared to others. But the important thing is that we're getting the work done and that we're making some sort of progression or progressive overload over the time. And for a home workout, so I just got my client to do this 3 times a week, only one exercise, not even once a day, or three, like once, well, three exercises for the whole week. So one exercise a day, 3 days. So um, this was just so she could pretty much stay consistent with it, and it wasn't too because she had quite a busy schedule. Um, just so I chose this program, this homework program, kept it short so she would stick to it and stay consistent with it, as opposed to referring to a lot of exercises and then her just not bothering to do it anymore. So on Monday we focused just on a seated shoulder press. Wednesday was rehab, so the external rotations, and Friday was the power. So for the results, so for sit and reach, she did quite good. It was a 13.5, so well, 41.5. So she's in the excellent category. Med ball throws, she did improve. However, she wasn't in the top percentile. Now, this could just be because, she was completely out of training for quite some time. So like, even though she's back now, she's still gonna be lagging behind. That's the rational compared to her peers. Because that normative data suggested this was against all high level athletes within her age group. And then for our treadmill submax via 2max test, she scored pretty well. She didn't improve. That's just because our program wasn't really focusing on cardiovascular. And our plank, there was an improvement. However, she's still quite in the bottom of the percentile. But like I said before, that's just due to the being out for a while, so she's already behind. And this is my evidence justification. Feel free to go through it anytime. And for reflection and professional practice. So, definitely a couple things. So, I want to be more prepared for sessions. For example, more research. I felt that as if a lot of research I had to begin with was quite general. It wasn't specific to tennis specifically. So that's something I could work as a practitioner, being able to individualize correctly. Because one person's need is not going to be the same as another person's need. I want to provide better queuing for client. So particularly during the telehealth sessions, yeah, there was it was quite difficult to get her to do the correct movement. But that's just nature of telehealth. It is quite difficult. But even during the in-person sessions, I felt I could have queued it a lot better, just for her to understand a lot better. For time management, some sessions tended to go a bit slower. Some sessions tend to go a bit faster. So just really trying to find that balance. So we finish at the right time and get the right amount of work done. And better action planning. So just make better goals, make a bit more specific. And more importantly, I wanted to stick to the scope of practice. So with this type of practice, I think there were some times where I was kind of overstepping the boundaries as a accredited or almost accredited exercise scientist. I was sort of moving into a role of EP or even physio, and that's not good. So I really got to learn how to really sort of know when to push and pull and really know like properly what I can and can't do just because that there can be some legal consequences if you're not following your scope of practice be held liable. Other than that, some positives. I had some good verbal communication. I was really attentive to the client, really engaging, made her feel really comfortable at all times. Conducted appropriate behavior, didn't swear, didn't say anything inappropriate. Um, and I built rapport, and the client enjoyed the sessions. She was very happy. So that was on the positive note. Uh, anyway, thank you all for listening to my presentation. Have a good one. Thank you. Bye bye.